This is the Rare Breed Syndicate. It is a group of high-performing men who are honestly trying to get better in every pocket of life. Family, fitness, business, their relationship, and honestly their personal faith or their belief system. My name is John Puna, and I'm an executive coach who specializes in leadership, high performance, and mindset.
All right, today is going to be a Rare Breed Masterclass. I have the co-founder of the Rare Breed Syndicate, my man Zack Williams. Big Z.
Appreciate you, man.
Now,
happy to be here.
Before we even jump into it, I think we should start by me kind of sharing just our relationship, just like how it all started and how it's kind of just evolved over time, especially in these last 4 to 5 months. So for the ones who don't know, I met Zack in 2021 when I actually did the Rare Breed Academy with another powerful voice named Trent Shelton. And we have a mutual friend named DJ, Darnell Jones. And before I even knew who Zack was, Darnell gave me a call. He was like, hey, there's this guy that I want you to meet. And he's an absolute savage when it comes to business, mentality, and this dude is just a world-class performer, and his name's Zack Williams. And he said, I've been around a lot of people, and I'm just telling you right now, this is a guy that you want in your corner. So everything that you're doing with Rare Breed, I just want to connect you with you guys. That was literally like, that was the intro. And I met Zack with the idea of us collaborating, right? Like that was really like, we came in there like thinking like that.
Yeah. Like where was our synergy going to be? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's how I came to the table as well. And, you know, not to cut your wisdom, but
no,
I was blown away, you know, by how palpable you were as a person.
Man.
You know, not just in just your delivery, but it's like, you know, when you're in the presence of somebody who embodies what they're actually saying, and it's not performative. And that was my first impression of you. That's such a level of intentionality. Every time you speak, I'm like, oh, like, no, that's how he lives. And, you know, being in a relationship with you and seeing that consistency over a long enough time horizon, man, it's humbling. It's humbling to be, you know, in close proximity to you and to be developing a relationship with you, you know, as we look to, you know, try to create impact in the world.
Well, dude, I'll tell you this, like I've had a handful of business partners, and not to say anything derogatory or negative, but not all of them had the same alignment that they should have. And what I have with you, I think, is special. Like I said, if there's any podcast that I was excited to do side by side with someone this year, and that's on camera. That's on camera. I talk about the identity of a rare breed, right? Someone who is psychologically flexible, who can meet the moment, regardless of what that looks like. And I say that to really kind of talk about this man's versatility. He would never say this on his own, but he's a pro athlete. He's actually been part of one huge exit.
Yes, sir.
And he's created a handful of different companies in different industries. Me having a healthcare background, he's done healthcare, he's doing AI, he's obviously doing performance enhancement, rehabilitation, aesthetics.
Yep. Well, me and my wife basically run a med spa.
Yeah.
At the moment, so that takes up a majority of my time these days, and it's been awesome. You know, it's another evolution of my my personality, my psyche, etc. Especially working with my spouse.
Let's jump into that. We might as well go and do that. Tell me what that's like.
You know what? I'm thinking about how vulnerable I'm going to be, you know, and I think I'd be doing people a disservice if I didn't just share from the heart. I think initially my ego was in the way, where it was her business and not something that we were going to build together. And, I wanted to have an identity outside of that, right? Well, this is my thing, that's your thing. And, we can come together and I can help out. But I think once I was able to die to that version of myself and really sit with her and understand, where she needed my support as far as where my gifts, talents, and abilities lie, not only has the business grown exponentially, but our relationship has flourished as a result of it. And so, I'm sharing because I'm pretty sure there's other guys out there that get to a maturation level in their relationship or with their spouse where it's a little unorthodox for them to be in a support role, if you will, and have their spouse out front. And that's just ego. Kill that ego.
Yeah.
And assume the role and the identity of the individual who needs to get the task at hand completed. And that's just kind of where we are right now in our relationship, in business, and personally. And it's been absolutely amazing. And, I didn't want to admit it, but I was in my own way.
How did you separate being business partner and husband? I mean, clearly, I would imagine you guys are spending a lot of time together during the workday, and then you got to go home. And of course, do you detach from it?
Yeah. Again, a big part of it, the adjustment was on my end, not hers.
Yeah.
And a big part of the adjustment was, I'm so accustomed to being in a leadership position as an executive, as a member of the C-suite, and I'm used to running a team and doing all of the dictating, if you will. Yeah. And so just learning how to flex my style and fall in line, if you will, for lack of a better term, in terms of like, where's my support needed? I had to adjust my heart posture and my disposition in the business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she had already built a very successful, bustling enterprise, and now I just needed to come in and do what I do, right? Which is put the gasoline on the fire. And so the adjustment was really on my end, where in the same way that I would expect an employee to interact with me in a business setting, where nothing's personal.
Right.
It's just the isness of the task that needs to be dealt with at the time, and us working. Yeah. It's us against the task instead of us kind of going at each other. There's no longer that power struggle. That was just a distortion of my perception. That was completely based in ego.
Us against the task. That's a bar right there. I think I'll tell you this. I can talk about so many like profound moments just from us. We had Rare Breed not too long ago, and you shared with me really a story of your reinvention, right? I talked a little bit about some of your accolades, and I know that you're not defined by that, but I think it was pretty amazing how you reached a level that a lot of people dream about reaching, and went out of your way to break yourself down because you felt like you were on a path that you were not happy with who you were becoming. And I knew you, right? I thought I knew you, but then you just went off, and I got a chance to hear how you pretty much spent like 2 years of your life and all that process. So I know we're going to talk about a lot on this podcast, but man, I just kind of want to hear a little bit more of your backstory, transitioning from ball to business, succeeding, and then reinvention.
Yeah, of course.
So I know that's a lot to unpack, man, but just like...
Yeah, I think, high level, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, 2-parent household. Dad's an immigrant from Guatemala. And, my parents are still together. My parents have been together close to 45, 46 years. I'm one of 5 kids. And, my old man was as old school as it gets. Mm. He wasn't a man of many words, but he demonstrated his creed. You know what I'm saying? He just worked hard. all the time, and he instilled a sense of pride in me and my siblings. He would just be like, "Look, you're a Williams,"
Yeah.
and intuitively, like when I was younger, that helped me develop my psyche.
Wow.
You know, that meant to me like, one, you're of a particular elk,
Yeah.
and this is just what we do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we don't faint in the day of adversity. You know what I mean? We armor up and we meet the moment. That was one, and then two, when he said you're a Williams, it really was, don't sully the family name.
Mm-hmm.
And that always is in the back of my mind. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Ever since I was a kid. So I kind of just,
Middle child.
so I'm the last of my parents' biological kids, and then I've got two younger brothers. I hate to say that they're adopted because they've been with us for the longest, and they my blood.
That's
what
beautiful.
I mean? And
That's
so,
beautiful.
I don't even call them bonus babies. They my boys. Man.
So you from Brooklyn? No wonder you rock with East Coast rap.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Of course.
So me and him, like, we realized we both hip hop heads.
Yep.
So when every time you send me something, it's normally a East Coast artist, which I rock with. Mm-hmm. I mean, anybody lyrical I rock with. So I was like, okay. I never knew you were actually from Brooklyn.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's so crazy. I know I'm sitting here talking to you, and I'm like, there's so much I don't know about John.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, man. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. So a lot of, I'm born in '82. So growing up in that era. 90s hip hop, 2000.
The golden era.
I mean, I'm inspired and influenced by, KRS-One,
mm-hmm.
Big Daddy Kane.
The teacher.
You know what I mean? Like, because you've seen these influences of these lyricists in Jay-Z's music, in Nas's music, and there's a lot of other people, obviously, but at that age in my development, there's a lot of bars that just went over my head. Mm-hmm. And so what you've been seeing me recently doing is digging into the archives and being able to put the pieces of the puzzle together that I was missing at my early stages of maturation based on where I'm at now in my life as a 42-year-old person who is world traveled and developed and have started to participate in multiple genres of music, lived experiences, as well as literary works. So
I mean, that's
where that's coming from.
Bottom line, man, I feel like I'm a very layered person. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big reason why you and I connect, because you have so many layers that you're willing to unpack as an artist, as an executive, and you're not afraid to really like lean into that creativity. So yeah, tell me, you came up in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're a hooper. Like, tell me the transition from hooping to business.
Really quickly, early childhood hooper. I was too fat to play football. Couldn't make the Pee Wee football team because I was overweight. No matter what I did, I mean, I put the garbage bag on, ran the baseball pads, tried to make the weight, and still, at 10 years old, I was 150 pounds, and I just could not play with anybody except for Pee-wees.
Sheesh.
And my skeletal development at the time wouldn't permit me to play with 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds. So I hit a growth spurt, and once I hit the growth spurt, a guy by the name of Kim Carey found me in New York playing basketball on the street on a milk crate that we had cut the bottom out of. And it was just like a hoop dream story. He just took me under his wing, started taking me to the park, training me, teaching me, and I was just pure raw talent.
Wow.
And I tell that story not to be long-winded, but because I was so heavy as a child, I was angry all the time. Mm. And so I played angry.
Yeah.
And when I started harnessing my anger, channeling it, and found a medium where I could express myself, and I started getting the attention and the accolades and the things that I was missing, that was really the original scaffolding of my psyche.
Yeah.
Right? So that's all relevant for
heavy.
Us talking about, how I made the transition from, playing basketball professionally in Europe for 5 years to then pivoting and taking that same scaffolding into business.
Before we talk about that, I just want to know, because I love ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who inspired you coming up? Who are you patting your game over? Or who did you just love watching?
It's so crazy because I was by default I've been 6'7" since I was 14 years old.
Okay.
So at the time, Hakeem Olajuwon, loved Hakeem.
Man.
By default, Patrick Ewing because it was a New Yorker.
Yeah.
And my uncle.
You were a Knicks fan?
No, never a Knicks fan.
I was gonna say that was a
Never
good
a Knicks
time
fan.
to be a Knicks fan.
It
though.
was, the Chicago Bulls Knicks era was a very difficult, challenging time to be a Knicks fan.
Yeah.
So I think I was a Knicks fan up until when Shaq came into the league.
Got you.
And then I was like, I'm off this.
Yeah.
I can't do this.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result is insanity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I hopped off that. That train in terms of that fan base. But yeah, Hakeem was a big person that I watched a lot growing up. Chris Webber, I loved his versatility.
Skilled big man.
I loved how angry he played at Michigan State. He played with that edge. You know what I'm saying? He was mushing people.
Oh yeah.
I came up really enjoying guys like Rasheed Wallace, Shaq, Kevin Garnett.
Killers.
I mean, anybody who had that dog.
Yes.
100. Like, because I played like that.
Yeah.
I was like a menacing person.
Yeah, I believe it.
Bro, I got suspended. I got suspended for punching somebody in the face that didn't get caught during the game on national television in the Big Ten tournament championship game.
Wow.
I was like that. You know what I'm saying? I was like Draymond before Draymond.
I was going to say the imposer.
I know.
Yeah.
So I grew up, because I grew up playing against guys like Ron Artest. Mm-hmm. We were on the same AAU team. Woo. I was just the young head who was growing up playing behind guys like Ron. You know what I mean? And Ron was the truth back then. Guys
he
like
always was.
Anthony Glover. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, there was no time. And we were playing this very little tiny gym at Riverside Church up in Harlem.
Wow.
Like, come on, man.
No, I can see it.
So, no, those guys definitely inspired a lot of who I groomed myself after. But yeah, man, I played angry, but I learned at a very young age, how to harness my anger. And in a lot of ways that developed a lot of my psychology of channeling my, instinctive nature, if you want to call it that, and directing my energy to accomplish what it is that I wanted to accomplish.
Well, I think now that I get to hear more of your story in depth, we're both Jay-Z fans, and I admire people who, in the public eye, can reinvent themselves over and over and over. So the way you've been able to reinvent yourself from being a pro athlete to now being an elite executive, and of course, like now, in my mind, like the way you inspire, the way you put words together, and the impact you make on everybody, it's like another reinvention. It's another chapter that you're taking on. So go ahead and dive into your reinvention from basketball to everything that we talked about.
Oh, man. Basketball was hard. It was hard. Now, in retrospect, at the time, I didn't have the vernacular to describe what I was experiencing, but it was the first time that I've experienced an ego death, was when I actually retired from the game of basketball.
Why did you retire?
So I tore my meniscus. And at the time, tearing the meniscus was like 50-50. Mm-hmm. I went and got my knee done, and instead of repairing it, they removed my meniscus.
Wow.
So I woke up to the reality of being bone on bone and essentially having, the prognosis was like, look, you got another 3 years to play in your career, but inevitably you are going to have knee replacement surgery as a result of us removing your meniscus, because at the time, the procedure was considered exploratory surgery for them to put something in there, like as a replacement.
And you're in Europe.
So I know I actually came back to New York, got surgery in New York, and sat down with my old man, had one of those talks. And, he was super cool, supportive of my career, but he was like, look, are you going to be independently wealthy in the next 3 to 5 years? And didn't persuade me to go one way or the other, but I reconciled that within myself that I was not going to be independently wealthy, continuing to chase my dream. And in a lot of ways, I was 26 years old. Most of my peers, I think had a 5 or 6 year head start in corporate America.
I got you.
And so
all you knew was ball at that
all
point.
I knew was ball.
Wow.
Like, think about it. I didn't have any real responsibilities. I was a hooper.
Yeah.
You go overseas and you got no living expenses. Zero. Your team covers everything. And all I had to do was wire some cash home when I needed it. But for the most part, I spent 5 years in 6 to 8 month increments in a brand new country.
Yeah.
Which was incredible for my development,
Mm-hmm.
Because leaving America allowed me to go somewhere where I was nobody.
Right.
And, that's when I really, being over in Europe was sort of me operating as a nomad, where I could reject everything that I had ever created, whatever version of myself I had created in the United States, whatever expectations I had to live up to. I could really just be alone with myself, be introspective, and start building my own psychology, not based off of how I was raised, what I was brought up under, what I was indoctrinated to believe. That's when I started studying, all of the world's religions and trying to make sense of my lived experience up until that point by developing my own psychology. And so
You're doing that at 26.
I'm all the way in.
Wow.
You call it the zeitgeist, whatever you want to call it. I'm studying everything. All the ancient text, all the literary works. I probably went through the Bible front to back like 3 times. I had my teammates testing me, where I would close my eyes and I literally would have like a photographic memory where I could see the scripture, reiterate it frontwards and backwards so I could learn it. Like I was really like
That's fascinating.
in that zone back then. And because like in New York, it's such a melting pot.
Yep.
We grow up around so many different cultures, but growing up in the church and growing up under Christianity, I couldn't reconcile how, there was this monopoly, if you will, on the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got all these other people who come from, various different backgrounds, and their genesis is different than mine. And then that whole thing came to a crescendo when I got to France, because majority of my teammates were Muslim.
Ah.
So it was the first time I was able to like side by side break bread with people who didn't come up like I did, who didn't believe what I believed. And what I noticed, because I'm a high level observer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I observe because I think, they say, believe none of what you hear and half of what you see.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a bar.
Yes.
But there's some deep mystical truth to that. You know what I'm saying? Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. And so, because like people can use words to disguise their true intentions.
Yes, to seduce.
It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's the art of seduction. And so being there with my teammates, them reading the Quran, me reading the Bible, and we breaking bread. And then beyond breaking bread, like I see how these dudes actually live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it wasn't proclamation and it wasn't performative and they weren't about a spectacle. It was like they were living their creed.
Man.
How they loved one another, which was uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
You grew up in New York, you mean mugging everybody.
Right.
You ice grill everybody.
Yeah.
You didn't see platonic love between men that wasn't perverted.
Mm-hmm.
And you get out there and them dudes is hugging each other and they kissing on both cheeks.
Yeah.
And they really like, nobody is going without.
Right.
Like, one buys groceries or one cooks, everybody eat.
Yeah.
I had never seen nothing like that before.
Wow.
And so that just kind of opened up a whole new world view for me on, my path towards pursuing knowledge.
Right. Evolution.
I'm like, there's no monopoly on this stuff. There are different people having different experiences, but there's a resonance that exists when we get into each other's presence, regardless of, what particular creed or philosophy we might actually have been brought up in. You know what I'm saying?
Well, to be 26 and be exposed to that and just have a culture shock, and you having enough awareness and humility to like really learn and take it in. I mean, you being raised under one religion, you being exposed to another, and then you guys literally exchanging scripture.
Yeah.
That, like, I'm visualizing that, and I can see how transformative that is. Okay, so
For sure.
tore your meniscus.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much had to start over.
100%.
And so let's jump into that.
Painful. Not the physical injury, but just to kind of put the audience back to where I was. So when I left New York City in 2000, I had a scholarship to Ohio State. I was the fourth best player coming out of New York City. I missed the McDonald's game by one slot because at that year, there were three guys that went to the McDonald's game from New York City. So I ended up playing in the Capitol Classic. But I say all that to say is when I left New York City, I left at the apex of high school basketball. I came from the pedigree of Christ the King, you know what I'm saying, where a lot of the greats came out of. And so to go back home after retiring from basketball, I get a job at Equinox as a membership advisor.
Wow.
Selling gym memberships, $11,000 base salary, and I'm back in Brooklyn and I'm on a street corner handing out flyers.
Come on.
My pride, bro. It broke me. And that was a valuable life lesson to me because it was so necessary for me to have that experience of humility, to be like, this is what it requires.
Yeah.
You don't get to start at the 40 or 50 yard line. You got to go back to the basics, and now you have to reinvent yourself. But you have to reinvent yourself in the public eye, and you have to die to this desire that you have to manage other people's perceptions of you. You got to swallow your pride.
Yes.
And that was one of the hardest things for me. Pride was everything. Like I told you.
At 26.
My old man instilled that in us.
Yeah.
So I was a prideful individual, and so I think that humbled me, bro.
How long did you do it?
$11,000 base salary.
How long did you do that?
So I did that probably like maybe 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
But I fast tracked.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes back to like I was back in the dojo. You know what I mean? Like I would go to Barnes and Nobles and sit in the book section and read all the self-help books. That's when I got turned on to Tony Robbins, and that's when I started really enjoying like great orators, motivational speakers, and I was like, there's something here for me in terms of personal development. That's when I started learning about the power of your subconscious mind and reading all the books they tell you to read to become great in sales.
Yeah.
I was just reading a bunch of sales books and a bunch of self-help books at the time. And, I became a regional sales manager in 17 months.
Wow.
I became an absolute savage. But there was a certain callousness that developed inside of me. Like where I went to that dark place where I had to become this version of myself that was, impenetrable.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter.
Right.
Like, I know people call themselves, they create alter egos. I didn't know I was creating an alter ego, but I created an alter ego who knew how to meet the moment, just like I did when in the sports world. I was just doing it organically and adopting to this new matrix that I happen to be a part of. And then so fast forward, did that for a number of years, got promoted, and they moved me to Dallas. That's how I ended up here. Became a regional.
Equinox.
Still Equinox. So Equinox moved me to Dallas. I was a regional over Dallas, Chicago, and Toronto at the time. And then my former business partner and how I ended up in healthcare, I met at Equinox.
Wow. He was a client?
He came into the gym one day to join. He was haggling one of my sales guys. I wasn't even supposed to be in town. I guess obviously now in retrospect, I was supposed to be in town to have that meeting.
Yeah.
But so I go in the office and do what we call a takeover, where I just take over the sale. And he and I just start, tennising back and forth, negotiating, et cetera, et cetera. Unbeknownst to me, I made an impression on him. He approached me a couple weeks later and said he had a healthcare company, and he was looking for a director of sales, and would I be interested in taking that job or coming in as a consultant. Now, I had no idea what the guy did. I probably met him 6 or 7 times after that, and in each subsequent meeting, no closer to understanding exactly what he did.
Yeah.
At the time, they were doing polysomnography, which was they were running a bunch of brick and mortar sleep labs in the DFW area, but the reimbursement was drying up in that particular modality.
Gotcha.
So they were pushing their risk capital into another modality, which happened to be ambulatory EEG. So that's how I left Equinox.
Was that Alliance?
That was Alliance. So I left Equinox and got into healthcare green. This is kind of like what I like to share with people. Like, all you have to do is develop yourself. And what you're seeking is seeking you. And if you're just doing
Say
the
that
work,
again.
right? So what you're seeking is seeking you. If you're doing the work, as a man soweth, that also shall he reap. That's all you have to worry about. You can't be distracted by everything that's going on outside of you, because that's exactly what it is. It's just a distraction. I was pushing so hard into the universe. I was working so hard that this next step in my maturation was inevitable. And me being divorced from how that was going to happen is exactly why it happened as organically as it did. Never submitted a resume.
Yeah.
Never interviewed with HR or anybody for that matter. My resume and nothing I had done up until that point suggested that I would even be successful in the role. I made an impression on the guy who took a flyer on me. We took a flyer on each other.
Yeah.
And, the rest is history. We went from 1.9 million in revenue my first year to 100 million in 4 years, and sold to private equity for 9 figures 4 years in 2017, 4 years after I started.
Unbelievable.
So
Unbelievable.
absolutely wild story.
Yeah.
You talk about I was the 18th employee. So you talk about building a plane while you're flying it.
Yeah.
Is essentially what I'd liken the experience to. But I enjoyed that drinking from a fire hose environment, because it forces you to up your game, especially when you're working on a team of other killers. Like we had a great, 4 to 5 headed monster in terms of the executive team, all around the same age, all, really, really ambitious, but each of us had a very unique skill set.
That complemented each other. And, our CEO was like the maestro. You know what I mean? He was the head conductor. He recognized what everybody's talents were. And, he set the tone in terms of empowering people to do what he hired them to do. And, I became a beast at that job, because for the first time, I felt like my rewards monetarily matched my contributions. And once I got a bite of that apple, it was too crazy. I was completely satiated by that. When you put me in an environment where I get to dictate how much I earn based off of how much sweat equity I'm willing to put in, I didn't look back after that. You're a competitor. I mean, it's all performance driven.
I didn't look back after that.
And I mean, it embodies like how you even got found at Equinox, right? Be so good they can't ignore you.
100%. Like I used to have advisors who I'd go in and talk to, and they were struggling at the time. They were trying to make ends meet. They're like, how are you always so, he's like, yo, you're like an eternal optimist. Like, how are you always so locked in? Like, what in this environment is inspiring you to be that locked in all the time? And it was never about the environment. I was honestly just trying to actualize more and more and more of my own potential. I didn't care about what was going on outside of me.
Right.
I knew in my repository there was more to be done, more to be expressed, more to experience. And so every day, you know, I got up with that level of excitement to express more of my potential.
So you telling
Actualize
me
more of my potential.
the internal driver was never the outcome.
The external driver was never.
The internal driver, I'm sorry.
The external driver was never what was driving me. Internally, I was always trying to get my reality to match my internal reality.
Right.
Before I knew about the power of the imagination, before I knew about all of those concepts and I had the jargon, the concept lived in my spirit. Like, I was already that guy when I was hooping.
Yeah.
So I knew what that was like. That was part of my DNA at that point. Excellence was part of my DNA. Becoming the very best at whatever it is that I'm doing, regardless of the domain, was part of my DNA. And so, I'll drop a Hove bar here. He said, put me anywhere on God's green earth, I'll double my worth. That became like theme music, and so that's always inspired me.
You use the word actualize. You use that a lot. Obviously, I know self-actualization is what you embody. Tell me, for you, what does that mean? For everybody there, like, what does self-actualization actually mean? And in your mind, what do you feel you need to do in order to actualize?
Yeah, so not to get esoteric or mystical, but for me, self-actualization is you being able to realize your potential, right? And it could be a very base case, right? Let's just talk about discipline, right? I think it's Nietzsche. He says, a man who doesn't obey himself will always be commanded. And so self-actualization is just your ability to do what you say you're going to do.
Absolutely.
Easier said than actually done for a lot of people. But I've never really struggled with, once I decided that I wanted to do something, I'm very much an extreme personality where I get myopically focused on what it is that I'm trying to accomplish, and I'll mobilize myself. Drake says he bullied himself.
Yeah.
Like, I bully myself a lot.
Yeah.
When it comes to harnessing my potential, harnessing my attention, and directing that attention to accomplish whatever it is that I'm trying to pursue. So to me, self-actualization, right? How do you actualize your potential, right? How do you mobilize yourself in the direction or pursuit of whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish? And I love doing that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love doing that.
You talked about you bully yourself. Obviously, I think the most important conversation is the one within your mind. At times, a lot of people who are extremely ambitious and who are achievers are their harshest critic. Clearly, you do it in such a way where it only builds you up. Did you ever get to a point where you would bully yourself that it actually would beat you down at all? Beat you down to the point where sometimes, who knows if it was really being productive or not? I'm curious.
Yeah, let me think about that too, because I don't want to give you an off-the-cuff response to that. I want to be honest. It wasn't until we sold our healthcare company where I even struggled with that. I was too busy actualizing my dreams to sit with myself long enough to deal with my insecurities.
Yeah.
Like, I was just working so hard
Yeah.
that everything that I was working on just felt and seemed inevitable. The danger with that is success can hide. You can hide in plain sight when you're successful. And if I kind of just draw some inspiration from an early point in our conversation, I told you I had built my psyche based off of external rewards, right? And so if there's any fluctuation in the scoreboard, whether it be net worth, whether it be my title, or whether it be my perceived standing in society, my self-esteem would ebb and flow.
Wow.
And I had to arrest that part of my development and rebuild my psychology independent of external validation or external rewards.
When did you realize that?
You know what?
What was
we
the
sold.
breaking point?
I'll tell you why it happened after we sold. So here I am, quasi-retired in 2019 with more money than I'd ever even dreamed of having, and a ridiculous amount of lived experiences up until that point. And now what?
Yeah.
Now what do I do?
Yeah.
You know, so much of my self-esteem, so much of my my bravado, if you will, was tied to the title that I held, the function that I held within that business in my capacity as an executive, and the 125 people that I was responsible for, and then the $100 million in revenue that I was responsible for. All of my identity was tied into that role.
Yes.
So when that phone stopped ringing, I was dying an ego death and didn't know I was dying an ego death.
Wow.
Because I could not let go of that version of me. Because I did not have a vision for what I was yet becoming. Because I had reached the apex of what I even thought was possible while I was climbing the proverbial ladder. And so now I'm at the apex, I'm on the mountaintop. Like, what do I do now?
Right.
You know, and that was hard. That was hard.
There's so much I want to unpack there, right? Like, I'm just fascinated hearing your story. Like, one thing, listening to your entire story, there's a bar that I say a lot of world-class performers look at their life in 3 to 5 year adventures. So I'm sitting there listening to your story, played 4 years of basketball, did your thing, 3 to 5 year adventure.
Yeah.
Obviously had the injury, had a rebirth,
Yeah.
equinox,
Same thing.
3 to 5 year adventure.
Healthcare company.
Started, as, $11,000 base,
Yeah.
having to eat his way through everything,
Yeah.
worked his way up, got moved to Dallas.
Yeah.
Not randomly, ended up meeting a future business partner,
Yeah.
18th employee of Alliance, 4-year adventure.
Yeah.
And then here we go. And I know we talked about identity. I'm going to talk about this, and I can dive in on identity. And this is one of the things I wanted to bring up. There's a lot of science that the 5 identities that people struggle with are, number one, the achiever. So when I'm listening to you, when you only identify as, I am what I have achieved, right, then naturally your self-esteem and self-worth is adjusted by how often you win.
Correct.
It's just that simple,
Yeah.
right? The second identity that a lot of people struggle with is the victim. So you are your past, you are your wounds. The third one is the perfectionist. If it's not perfect, I'm not worthy, right? The fourth one is the lone wolf. So that person right there is, they've been scarred so much, they're emotionally guarded. I don't need anybody else.
Do it myself.
And this is the exact way I'm going to do. And the one that I struggle with the most is the caretaker. The rescuer in a sense. The person who feels like they always have to save everybody. I have a bad tendency, even when people don't even ask me for help, and I'm not even trying to act like I'm self-righteous, I'll offer it. Like I feel value when I help everybody else. Therefore, even when you're not even asking for it, when I sense you need it, I'll offer it. So when I'm not helping anybody, I feel like I'm less than. Yeah. The reason I felt like sharing those is because I struggle with the achiever still, right? If I'm not constantly winning and I can see the scoreboard, it's messing with me. So who am I when I'm not winning?
Yep, yep.
And then who am I when I'm not helping or healing somebody? And I'm just listening to you because clearly it was the achiever for you. You know, you had a history of winning. You got addicted to winning. You saw the scoreboard, and then you had the awareness to say, no, there's more to it.
Yep. Yep.
So let's talk about that transition. Like clearly you told me when it happened, but post the exit,
yeah,
I know you went through a rebirth.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, I didn't do so willfully. But, you know, I think just through, you know, trying to contemplate on a daily basis what I was going to do next and just being antsy about where I was going to derive meaning from next, you know, I reached out to my older brother, who's a personal trainer, fitness professional by trade, and he has a buddy who has a complex out in Detroit, and he trains a bunch of professional athletes. And so I wanted to strip myself of all of the vanities. And this is what I did when I was in Europe, right? And so I was like, how can I recreate becoming a sort of nomad, if you will, and stripping myself out of all of my material wealth, all of my material success, and all of the things that I'm currently deriving meaning from. And, you know, he helped me pull together this plan. My brother helped me pull together this plan to go out to a place called Mecca down in Detroit, world-class facility. I basically rented a Ford Expedition, stayed in an extended stay hotel for about 2 or 3 months. I trained twice a day. I did nothing except for train twice a day, read the scripture, and tried to rebuild my life. And, you know, it's kind of a willingness to go into a cave, if you will, and, you know, drown out the noise and get quiet enough with myself to, you know, come out of there a better version of myself, right? It was my own version of like going to rehab, which is so crazy to say out loud. But that was deeply meaningful for me. And I literally just disappeared.
I have to, you know, for the people who are listening to this, if anybody could clip that section and that story, and I honestly felt like you didn't even really like lean into it, for someone to reach that level of success that everybody is aspiring to get to and have the willingness to understand, you know what, I am not who I need to be, and I'm becoming a person that I'm not proud of, to actually call family up and say, I'm going to go and live below my means, knowing I got millions in the bank and I could be traveling the world. I can be just partying with my boys, doing X, Y, Z, and I'm going to go to Detroit. I'm going to get a Ford Expedition when you know you could have any luxury car that you want and live like that for whether it was 2 to 3 months and strip yourself naked of all the materialism, you know, and all the external validation and just kind of get in your own hole, you know, and go under your own personal training camp to rebuild. If that is not the mentality of a rare breed, I don't know what is. And that was the story that I didn't know that you went through.
Oh, yeah.
That put me on the floor. Because I said to myself, if I had a couple million in the bank and I just wasn't really that happy, would I go to some random city and just live like I didn't have much?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I was like, I don't know if I would do that. I'd probably like, you know what? Man, let me just, you know, hang out with my boys and talk to them for a little bit and try to get in gear, man. But that just blew my mind. That just blew my mind.
You know, bro, I was traveling the world probably like every other weekend. You know what I mean? So like, I think I was watching an interview with Will Smith the other day, and he's going through a rebirth as well.
Yes.
And he was like, you know, my hope is that everybody gets to the point that I got to,
Yeah.
where there's only you at the end. Then what?
Yeah.
He's like, I got all the houses, I got all the cars, I got all the material trappings, I had the fame, you know, and, you know, you get to the end of that and all you got is yourself.
Yeah.
And all you got is God.
Yeah.
Now what? Right? And so there was nothing else to do. What was I going to do? Like, I knew I couldn't continue, you know, on the trajectory that I was on because all of it was a spectacle. I was trying to, now in retrospect, I can actually articulate it, but I was trying to prove to everybody who knew me when I had the title and the job and all of that, that I was still doing great.
Yeah.
So I was literally hiding in plain sight, even though I wasn't good on the inside. And so, you know, I won't go back to that place where I trade my self-respect for managing other people's perceptions of me. And so that's where I'm at now in my life. The guy that looks back at me when I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, I always want to be proud of that guy. I always want to have respect for that person. And so that dictates a lot of what I do on a daily basis.
Man, there's so much, like, I don't even know where to go from here. Like, I'm just sitting here, like, taking it in. Let's shift gears and just talk about Rare Breed. I know when we first, just so everybody knows how we reconnected. I told you we met in 2021. You made an indelible mark on me just that day, and we were just vibing. And I left there thinking, like, man, I don't really know too much about this Zack dude, but I know we need to stay in touch. Years pass, me and you just shooting Instagram messages to each other probably once every 7 months, barely talking. But there was just like an energy. I say to myself, man, I have to put together a men's mastermind. You know, this was on my docket to do. So I said to myself, let me get about 50 people that I've either coached or had a connection with, and I want to get them in there, and I just kind of want to inspire them, and build a culture of high performers and high character men like no one's ever seen. And you were one of the first people that I called. And I'll never forget the way you welcomed me on the call was like, Pruna, man, you already know what I feel about Rare Breed. I'd be proud to wear your jersey anytime.
Say less. That's what my response was.
And then,
literally, say less.
Sure enough, you showed up to the spot, we showed out, and we already knew then that me and you had to collaborate. So tell me, what is Rare? Number one, tell me what you want to build with the syndicate as a whole, and what you believe a Rare Breed is.
It's a loaded question.
I know it, and I'm not talking about business. I'm talking about in general.
No.
Like,
I am. I'm telling you. I'm gonna be raw with you.
Yeah.
You know, on the surface of it, Rare Breed works from a commercial standpoint, but it is so much deeper than that, right? To become a rare breed, right? The word in of itself means you have to give birth to something that is rare. And what you're actually giving birth to is a willingness to die to yourself, to give birth to the version of you that you could actually become over and over and over again, right? So being a rare breed is not for the faint of heart. It is a constant wrestling with yourself to pull out a more mature, more evolved, more sophisticated, more diligent, more confident version of yourself. And it's not always going to be pretty. And I'll give you evidence of that. So I've been having this reoccurring dream lately, which is actually pretty embarrassing, right? But I've been having this reoccurring dream where I'm out in public and I'm defecating on myself, right? So I finally, a couple weeks ago, got into ChatGPT and I was like, hey, I'm having this reoccurring dream. What the hell is this, right? And the first thing that comes up, it says, you're going through an ego death.
Wow. Wow.
You
Keep
are
going.
defecating the version of yourself that no longer serves you, and you're doing it publicly. It is going to be obvious to the people that you encounter. And you're afraid because you've always been so polished and so put together and so surgical about managing other people's perceptions of you that it's going to be messy. And the real version of you isn't going to be accepted outside of your polish. So for me, we're creating Rare Breed, which is a refuge for the person who needs an environment to actually just be messy while they're going through their process, right? No judgment. A brother, somebody who gets in the foxhole with you, regardless of what you're going through, you realize it's a vault, right? Where you don't have to be ashamed of anything that you're growing through during that season. You can be vulnerable. You can ask for help. You can get perspective. To me, that's what it is. Yeah. And that lives beyond titles. That lives beyond slogans. And that really resonates very deeply with me because that's the impact that I know you want to have and the guys in the group want to have and I want to have is like, I'm not trying to be another talking head on the internet or make a name for myself. That's a big one that I've been thinking about lately is how can I live my life in such a way that inspires somebody else to evolve in their own life?
Yeah.
Not because of my message, but because I'm a living epistle.
Yeah.
The example that I set forth. So to me, man, Rare Breed is wild.
Yeah.
In terms of, I want us to be careful about defining it. Right? All we have to do is create the community.
Yeah.
And put the resources in place to help people mature into the version of themselves that they desire to become, independent of the fixed ideologies or ideas that people might actually have about what that looks like.
Yeah.
It's not a linear process. And so we just want to create an environment where guys can feel like they can do that, and they have confidence. Guys don't have confidence.
No, they don't. That last 3 minutes, that little soliloquy you heard is exactly why he is my partner in Rare Breed. To me, on some real shit, like this ain't even clearly it's all recording. I want that clipped. Like I want like that like honestly like now we've already been an hour. We can just like kick back and talk. Like because I was sitting there obviously like just listening to Zack's thing. And clearly, I think you have the awareness of what things should be clipped. That's the way I feel like when you were talking, even though as honest as you were about it, when you just described Rare Breed from the top, that entire like 2 or 3 minutes, you had so many pieces that you could clip
because
whether you did it or not.
I'm
on
not
purpose.
trying to perform. It's not about self-aggrandizement. I really, in my heart of hearts, know how important it is to create something that I wanted for myself when I was going through it. You know what I'm saying? Like, men hide in plain sight every day. I never even shared this story with anybody. About a year ago, one of my neighbors, I live in a high-rise downtown, you know what I'm saying? Swanky spot.
Right.
You know? We all do what we do.
Already.
So one of my neighbors, multi-millionaire, Name is in the papers. He at D Magazine, got the lovely wife, got the the Range Rover, the G Wagon, the Rolls Royce Dawn, whatever. I see him in the building all the time. We chop it up. I see him walking his dog, everything, right? So I wake up one morning, my wife texts me. She's like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "What you mean I'm all right?" She like going crazy. This guy I'm telling you about, Pruna, woke up one morning and just jumped from the 14th floor.
Oh my God.
I just saw the man probably like a week or two prior, downstairs,
Yeah.
chopping it up with him. He's drinking his martini. Everything is great.
Yeah.
He jumps. He was just in D Magazine.
Unreal.
So that's what I'm telling you, like, guys are hiding in plain sight.
Right.
You never know what somebody is going through. And, if we can create a refuge, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, like, this ain't no, we're not sitting here trying to trauma bond with you, but if you want to get right, you want to get out of your own way, you want help evolving your perception of yourself and your perception of reality.
Yeah.
You want the tools and the resources to mobilize yourself and actually create a life that you want, that is deeply meaningful. Bro, we want to help you, bro. We want to pull aside alongside of you.
People suffer in quiet desperation. You mentioned the ego death multiple times on this podcast, and at the end of the day, ego is the enemy. Like, we've conditioned ourselves as men to honestly have to provide, protect, preside, and at no point can we show weakness. At least a lot of us.
Not to each other.
Not to each other.
Not to each other.
Not
Not
to
to
each
your
other.
spouses either, right? That's a hard thing.
That's right.
That's a hard thing.
And, to me, one of my main messages is vulnerability is strength. So a big reason, and I mean this, a lot of people follow me. It's not because I'm the best at X. It's because they can just feel my authenticity. They feel my vulnerability. They know it comes from the right place.
Yep.
And ultimately, like, that transcends. And when you understand, man, this person is just being completely real with me.
Yep.
In a world full of fakeness.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we are creating within Rare Breed. And I've always loved it because I've clearly been a coach for a long time, and people of your stature who thankfully have come to me in a place where they see me as like a mentor and someone they can trust. They've always told me, man, Pruna, I can always trust that whenever I go to any session that you're leading, every person in there is a good human.
Yeah, that says a lot.
And I never really that never really clicked with me.
High character is important.
Yeah, and they would just say, I already know if there's a group that Pruna put together, everybody in there is a real one. And that filled me up.
That's a tribute to you. I think my job in all of this too is to push you out to the forefront.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, cool. Like, we all benefit from being in relationship with you, but now is the time for you to really evolve into the version of yourself that we know you are purposed to become. And I'm gonna push you.
I know it.
I'm gonna push you to do a lot of the things, whatever the dreams are that you have, the goals, the aspirations. I'm going to push you out of your comfort zone. Right? What you do now is what you're comfortable at doing. You're a prolific orator. You're a prolific writer. You're a prolific coach. You're great in terms of synthesizing boxing jargon and making it applicable to life. Well, now we're gonna push you out into the forefront. You know what I'm saying? To do that more and more at scale, because there's it says like the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. Pardon me from my biblical canon bias, but a lot of my metaphors come from the scriptures because I spent so much time in them.
Yeah.
But that's what it is, bro. The harvest is plenty, but the workers are few, and we want to be those guys Rare. One of my favorite scriptures is, a friend loves at all time, but a brother is born for the day of adversity. Who in the foxhole with you? You know what I'm saying? Wisdom is found in the multitude of counselors. Where's your counsel? That's what happens to a man when he's left to his own vices and he don't got his counsel. You listen to guys like who's the comedian? Kevin Hart.
Mm-hmm.
He don't travel without the plastic cup boys no more.
Right.
He don't. He insulates himself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's what we want to be able to create for guys, not just physically, but like psychologically and otherwise. Like, nah, bro, like you belong to a very particular ilk of men in a community that are going to hold you accountable to a standard, right? Because we know that standard is what allows you to be the best version of yourself. And everybody else that entrust you to steward your own gifts, talents, and abilities, and to steward your responsibilities over the relationships that you have with them by extension, that's who we holding you accountable for.
Absolutely.
But we doing it with love.
Oh, I see it.
We doing it with love.
No, I think, God, every time you just go, like there's so many things that are running through my head as I'm trying to unpack everything that you're saying. Number one, obviously the theme of this talk being self-actualization. Maslow, what you can be, you must be.
100%.
You know, what you can be, you must be. And I can't stress enough the impact you made on my life. Like, everybody hears the quote, you're the average of the 5 people you speak to most. And there's so many different things. Or you could say you're the average of the 5 people you inspire to be, right? So when you're sitting there looking at Hove or you're looking at Buffett, like if that's who you're measuring yourself against, naturally that's what's going to happen. I cannot stress enough what Rare Breed and being around high-performing, high character, not hungry but starving to do great things in this world, such as yourself, has made an impact on me. And I'm sure you felt this too. When you are looked at as the centerpiece or the matriarch, right, it can be very isolating. But when you're with other people that not only have that hunger but understand what it's just different. And
well, that's where I'm gonna push you.
Yeah,
that's where I'm gonna push you because, bro, you're a Calvary all by yourself,
man.
And that's what happens when you start to realize your actual power.
No question.
You know what I'm saying? Because, like, we talk about identity quite a bit, and for me, at this stage of my life, you're like, well, what's your identity? Bro, I am.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Period. And that gives me the mental dexterity that I need to become whatever version of myself I need to become to accomplish whatever it is that I'm trying to accomplish. And I will operate in that I am consciousness for the rest of my life.
You said one of the most powerful one of the most powerful things you told me in passing is fear is an illusion.
Oh, we could have a whole nother podcast on fear.
We are. But for the sake of the gram, I'm gonna repeat it. Yeah. One of the most profound things you ever told me in passing is fear is an illusion. Dive into that.
So, it's so funny you said that. I was studying that this week. How many times do you think fear appears in the biblical canon?
I actually remember this. It's an astronomical number, I believe. But I'm going to say it's north of 100.
365 times.
Think about that. Yeah.
That's how important it is.
Yes.
That's how important it is. It says, perfected love cast out all fear. So fear in of itself is an illusion, right? Fear is nothing more than distorted perception. The first time, right, whether you read the scriptures as a historical book or you read it more as a metaphorical book, the first time fear is encountered in the drama within the scriptures is when Adam and Eve partake of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God says, where you at? He said, oh, I realized that I was naked, so I hid myself. Now, what people miss from that story is, in the beginning of Genesis, it says he was naked and unashamed. After the fall, I realized I was naked and I hid myself. So what happened there? The story that actually is the drama that's playing itself out, that plays out in the human psychology, is we think we're separated from the source. And when we operate as separated from source, we become victims, or we develop victimhood, or we develop doubt, or we develop fear. But when we get back to knowledge of self and realizing who we really are, and that we never were disconnected from source, fear dissolves completely. It dissipates. It loses its power.
I see.
Right? Even if you think metaphorically or otherwise. It said when Christ was filled with the Spirit and led into the wilderness, he was tempted by the devil. Whether you believe that is a separate deity or an entity, or he was just grappling with his human nature, doesn't matter, right? What really matters is the reason why he was able to withstand the temptation was because he knew who he was.
Yeah.
And then if you go, all throughout his life, all he ever was trying to do was model the fact that I am the Father are one. That's when they went to stone him.
Yeah.
So, for me, regardless of what walk of life people come from, it's like, bro, man, know thyself. This is so crazy. My Instagram handle is KYS Method.
I've wondered why.
I have been hiding in plain sight for years. Know yourself.
Wow.
Even before I fully was developed in that level of consciousness, it had an impression on me that all throughout human history, I don't care what religious belief system it was or what civilization existed, they left remnants behind where we were supposed to, at some point, remember who we are. Man, know thyself.
Brilliant.
You know what I'm saying?
I've always wondered what it meant.
Know yourself.
Oh my God.
We should end it there. Like,
So crazy. We could do a whole nother.
No, I
we could do a
think-
whole nother pod on fear, and I could really unpack fear because the travesty and the tragedy that exists in the human experience is all based in fear.
I love it. I love this podcast. I loved, hearing your story. Like for me, and I know G's listening too, I have a problem because I'm sitting there like looking for content as I'm listening. I'm trying to do two things
You don't gotta
at
do it.
once.
Yeah.
So clearly, like that one piece you just talked about fear, and obviously referencing those biblical stories, there was probably like 5 reels that you could have cut. I don't even know if you're realizing that you're doing it, but like in my mind, I'm like, clip.
Oh,
like
no.
that is honestly kind of how I'm thinking.
I don't realize it because
But I think this is me, and obviously this is recorded, and now we got, let me see, it's 12:50. I got to leave like around 1:20. Telling you, G, when I want to do, and I want Zack really a part of this, right? Like today we did this open one. Like I think all of these original podcasts need to hear the story. Like that's almost its own podcast. You know what I mean? Like hearing the story of Zack was a good chunk. I think that matters. And like the podcast needs to be clipped to where we talk about self-actualization in one point, fear in one point. Just like when you look at a YouTube video and you just see the topics of like all the smoke. I'm just using we just need to put the chapters. And 2, I want to do more focused podcasts, even without me, bro. Like, so for example, Ed Milet style, we've talked about this. Ed Milet, he'll do a podcast, and then he'll do one by himself with one specific message. And they're normally about like 20 minutes.
Yep.
I haven't been prepared. Like, for example, that identity one that I just did, I could have just went for like good 12 minutes. And the way you would have went on actualization or fear, that's kind of the cadence that I want to run.
Oh yeah. I can do that all day long.
Because I was sitting there listening,
I can do that all day long.
because I want this podcast to be so great. To me, these are like trial runs. Like we kind of figuring out how we want to do it.
Yeah.
You're attached to it, or
I don't know. You know what? The only way I could really describe it is like, so you see like guys like J. Cole, what he goes through, right?
Yeah.
He got a whole lot in the vault, but he don't release it.
Yeah.
It's because when you get to a pocket in life where you find peace, there's a fine line of, am I putting this out to reinforce an old feedback loop that used to serve me that no longer satiates me? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you would have caught me 5 or 6 years ago, bro, I'd have had a couple books out already. We would have done a couple pods already. You know what I'm saying? But at this stage in my life, you know, I'm more secret society. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, this
like
is,
if you know, you know.
This is just
if you in the circle, I got you. We're gonna give you the game. We're gonna give you the codes. But I don't exist to make a monument of myself in society.
But that's not the goal for you. So it's like two things, right? You know, in my mind, it's your obligation to share your gift, period, point blank. So listening to you talk, bro, you're so alive when you're speaking about these things. It's just like me. When you see me coaching boxing or you see me trying to speak, like you could see my intensity go up. So even though you may not, there's a difference between wanting to make an impact and wanting to be famous. I don't want to be famous.
Yeah.
I want to make an impact.
Yeah.
And I want to be the best.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, you're the same way. I'm a big fan of Jokic.
Yeah.
Jokic don't want none of that.
Yeah.
The minute he win the championship,
Yeah.
I want to go to the parade. I want to go back to Slovenia and be with my horses.
Yeah.
But he knows I'm the best in the world at this basketball thing.
Yeah.
My team needs me.
Yeah.
And I want to win. And you got to have that same mentality. Like,
Yeah, I think say something along the lines like, you know, obviously, you know, we just finished up an incredible dialogue.
Yeah.
As you guys can see, anytime we get together, we can go on for hours
yeah.
because we both are equally edified by the substantive exchange that exists whenever we come together, and we're not trying to one-up each other.
Yeah.
Right? I have so much respect for you that I'm so humbled when I'm in your presence because I want to glean from your experience.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, there's more to come.
No, like
obviously,
I think
this is a beautiful experience for me. I'm humbled that you guys had me on, and you know what my heart posture is, man. Whatever we need to do in the next season of growing the community, you know, a humble servant.
This is how I finish it. First off, you're welcome. You're welcome to have been a witness to this Rare Breed Masterclass by my close friend and partner, Zack Williams. As you could see, this is what we want to build. You know, we want to build a culture of just high-performing, high-character men, and we just want to drill and tattoo in your brain the idea of just knowing exactly who you are and what you're capable of, and embracing the idea of just limitlessness, just being completely, you cannot break something that bends in any direction. And that's certainly what we are doing with Rare Breed. And it's just a privilege. Like, this is somebody that I learn from every day. This is somebody that I build with every day. And as much as he says that he understands what he is capable of, I don't even think he's scratched the surface. And it feels empowering to me to have him on my team. So till next time, and it's a wrap.
It's a wrap, man.
It's a wrap.
Appreciate you, bro.
Yes, sir.